Hi guys, welcome back. Today we want to conquer inheritance with object-oriented programming. So specifically today we want to look at the difference between class and instance attributes, and we want to look at the idea of inheritance. What does it mean that one class can inherit from another class? Right, so to jump straight in, there's an example I've got for you here. So I have a class of a car, and this is what we call a class attribute. So we can see it says wheels equals free. So once we've instantiated objects from that class, that blueprint, what we can do is we can access its attributes, and when we refer to wheels, it will be free. What's interesting though is you can see here on these two lines where we've instantiated, we've said that the car has a model of Kona and white, and the second car has a model of Passat and the color is blue. Okay, and then what I've done is I've updated the attributes, the class attribute, to wheels equals 4. However, at this point, even though I'm making a change to the class, at this point don't forget that our class has already been used to instantiate two objects. Here I've instantiated our two objects using a class. I've then updated the class attributes, and now when I print out both car 1 and 2 and then print out how many wheels they have, really you can see now that it's updated the objects to 4, even though you can see the classes were instantiated before the attribute was changed. This way we can see that when we create classes, certain attributes, we have to be careful to place them as instance attributes and not class attributes. Okay, so for something like a car, the number of wheels will probably always remain the same, so that shouldn't be a problem. But for example, in a game when you have, for example, character health, you might want to use that as an instance attribute and not a class attribute. So moving on, we have an example then of another class. Continuing from what we did last lesson, we have a class called doll, and it has class attributes of legs too. So all dolls are going to have 2 legs generally, and since that's not going to change, we can leave that as a class attribute. And then we have name and eye color, and now what we have is something called an instance method, which we've done before, but this particular one will update variables or attributes within the instance itself. So for example, when we run mutate doll, we have a list of colors. It will pick a random color from the list of colors, and it will change the doll's eye color. Then the other thing I've done is I've said doll dot legs equals randint 1 to 4. Now this could be a problem, because if we change the class attributes, it will change attributes for all dolls. So here you can see that when we instantiate the doll and we call info, at first Sandy has blue eyes and 2 legs, and then when we mutate the doll, we can see that we've changed its self attributes, and Sandy now has red eyes. That random color has been chosen, and Sandy has 1 leg. Right, let's look at inheritance. So the idea of inheritance is that we can create a class that might have some of the attributes and some of the functions or methods that another attribute might have, and it can inherit them. So for example, our doll was genderless, right? But if we wanted to create a male doll, then we would be able to add extra attributes if we wanted to. And let's give an example. So this is an example of inheritance. You can see here I've got my doll class, and forgive me, I can see my image here is slightly squashed, and my constructor method on this line is gone over to a second line. But basically here we have our class, and then on this line, on line number 9, we have a new class called male doll, which inherits from doll, which means that we have access to the same methods and the same attributes that the parent class has. So here, our male doll, when we run our constructor method, takes the same attributes as an argument. So when we instantiate the object, that means that we're still going to take name, still going to take eye color, but now we're also going to have hair color, and we're going to state whether the doll has a beard, true or false. Okay, and then we call the super function here with the super constructor method, the init method, and we're basically saying that basically from the parent inherit name and eye color. Okay, so then in the same sense that when we create an object, we also assign its values to itself. Now, automatically, it's already going to assign the values from the doll, but from the male doll, we're going to add the two attributes of hair color and beard, as mentioned. All right, and we can also see that doll here, sorry, male doll, will also have another method that the parent class doesn't have, called talk. So on line 18, I instantiate my doll as Ken using male doll. I've added the attributes of name, that the hair color is brown. Sorry, the eye color is brown. The hair color is brown, and I've said true for doll. Oh, no, I've said true for hair. No, I need to go sleep. I said true for beard. So Ken, his name is Ken. He has brown eyes, brown hair, and true that Ken has a beard. All right. And then what we have is we've instantiated another object, this time just from the doll, and we've instantiated it as Barbie. So the name is Barbie and eye color is blue. And the reason why we do that is because on line 20 we call info. So you can see that when I call info here, Ken calls the same method that exists in the parent class. It says Ken has brown eyes, which is exactly what's output here. Okay. But then when we say Ken talk, now this is an exclusive method that only Ken has. And what we do is we give an argument of another object. So when we say talk, you can see here that this argument takes self. So that's Ken's own attributes. And we're also passing through an object. And the object in this case is we're passing another instantiated doll. And what it's saying is, hey, object.name. So in this instance here, when we run this method, it's saying, hey, Barbie. Okay, so let's do one more example of a class and a parent class and a child class. So what I've got here is a class called product. And just imagine this is a supermarket product. It could be a ball, it could be a book, it doesn't really matter. And it just has two attributes, so price and item name. And here we assign those values to our class itself. We have a method that just says display info. So it just says the product name and the price of the product. So that's our parent attributes and method. And then we have a child class, food item, which takes the parent as an argument. And on this line here, on these two lines, should I say, we instantiate our child class with the price, the item, and we add a new attribute called sell by date. And on this line here, we take sell by date and we assign it. And what I've done here, actually, I had to convert this into the string into a date object. And I didn't mention this at the beginning, actually. If I just scroll to the top here, you can see that on line number 1, I've imported a module called datetime. And the Python documentation explains how to do this. But what we then do is we can take a string and we can convert it to a datetime object. So really, this module that we're importing actually is a class, is another object. And so the method that we have for the food item is it just checks expiration. Okay, so it takes today's date here, instantiates today's date actually as an object right here. And then it says days remaining. So it looks at sell by date, and it checks how many days until expiration. If the days remaining is less than 0, then it has to say that it's expired. And if it's not expired yet, then it just says how many days remaining. So you can see now on line 25, I've instantiated milk as a food item. We've got the price, the item name, and we've given it a date of the 30th of October. And on line 26, we call a method from the parent class. So display info is a parent method. And then on line 27, we call a child class method. So let's see if it all works. When we click on run, it works, right? So it tells us this is output from the parent method, and the output from this one. So today is the 1st of October. And that means that we have 29 days left into expiry. Okay guys, so lastly, just before I move on and finish this video, I just want to explain very quickly something called the docstring. I won't go into too much detail. It's on my slide, and there's a task on the for you guys to work on as well. But the idea is that the docstring comment placed at the beginning of a class definition, and we can also use it for functions, enables us to give some sort of information or some help to do with either a class or a function. And it's kind of like a helper, like a help text. So here's a quick example of that. And like I said, we can use this both for a class and for a function. And I've done it for a function here, yeah? So using triple quotes here, I've just got a small line just explaining what this function does. Now I can call this in two ways. So here, to access the docstring, I can say print area of circle and then underscore underscore doc underscore underscore. So if I run that, it gives me the explanation of what this function does. And obviously I can put more information if I wanted to. I can put that over multiple lines. The other way of doing this is we could say help. So we can call help, and if we put that and we run it like this, it gives us, using Python's built-in help method, just the explanation. There's our function name, and here's the explanation of what the function does. Okay, so guys, with that in mind, with that done, I just want to point you towards always the extra work. Okay, some practice for you to fill in the blanks, and then afterwards I've got an example class for you to try and work on. So you're going to create a library item, and you're going to then here's some instantiated objects for you to play with, and then we're going to extend that. So we extend the library item into different classes that inherit from the library item class. Have fun, guys. Do practice, and I'll see you in the next video.